Hello and welcome back to the Brit Iron Podcast. Today we've got a very, very hot episode for you, hot off the press, with very much an action-filled hour or so. I think it's going to be
not action-filled for some players, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, we'll come on to that as that fills up our news section at the top of the episode. We're then going to follow up with a little bit of Sam's Realisation Monday, which we'll come on to as well. A nice little explanation pending on that one. And then we're going to preview week 3 in the NFL season. A lot of good games this week, so excited to get into that. But, of course, haven't introduced them yet. Matt and Sam with me today. How are we?
Evening, buddy.
Evening.
Buddy. Yeah, doing good. I mean, about as good as you can do, given current times. But, you know, busy at work, you know, making that bread, getting ready to record this episode. I'm in a good mood.
Yeah, at least we still got football. Let's ignore everything else going on. An hour of football. It's an escape. This is what this should
I swear to God, if my phone buzzes and says that week 3's been cancelled,
we give up. We give up.
Imagine.
That would be pretty wild.
Don't even joke about that.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Fortunately, I don't think that will happen, but I don't want to jinx it.
I was going to say, we'll have to change to like an esports, a Madden podcast, maybe.
We only just got on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. We got to do something. We got to keep it going.
Cheeky little plug!
Look
Find
at
us on
that.
Spotify and
We
Apple.
forgot to mention it.
Nice.
So to kick off with the news, actually, we're on Spotify. We're on Apple Podcasts. We're on a few other platforms as well, which evade my mind because they're a bit more mindless.
probably
I
knocking
think
around
it's Google Podcasts, something
somewhere.
like that. Waiting on the authorization, but that should be by the time this is out. And then, yeah.
For those of you listening, go and drop us a follow on all of those, and we really appreciate any reviews you could leave. That is always helps with grabbing new people in. We're trying to build a bit of a community, so stay active on our Twitter and Instagram and stuff. Get involved.
Yeah,
100%.
I don't want to say we've made it, but
we're there.
we've made
We're
it.
there.
Yeah. Pretty
I
much
think
there.
they might as well move over primetime slot, get us on Sky Sports, the new NFL one. Maybe we get that as a hashtag. Kind of like, remember McAfee for Monday Night Football?
Yeah.
I think the Brit Iron for primetime Sky Sports NFL.
That's catchy. I like it.
Yeah.
Rolls off the tongue.
Yeah.
Keep it
Yeah,
short
really.
and sweet.
Yeah, exactly.
I like that.
To the point.
We'll get that off the ground. I'm sure. Yeah, maybe we should move on to the actual news of the week. Maybe the NFL news of the week. You know. And we've alluded to it earlier, or Sam alluded to it earlier. Pretty much everyone is injured. It's got to the point where I actually had a call from Sean McVay asking if I play wide receiver. I did then pick up an injury, so I can't do it.
Right, okay.
You know, it's...
Sam's a new
down.
D lineman for the 49ers. They're getting desperate.
Mate, I'm going to be on the edge. Me and Shanahan have been dialing up some plays. I'm going to be on the edge this weekend. I won't lie. My kind of power run defense is not the best, but you know I'm pretty shifty with my hands, so I get around linemen.
Yeah. So watch your space. You know, you never know. You might get the call up. You're listening now. You might get the call up, so you know, stay on the line, as they say. But maybe we should run through a few players that of note that have gone down just real quick. Saquon Barkley, ACL, CMC out for a few weeks of a high ankle sprain, I believe it is. Drew Lock with a shoulder issue out for about a month or so. Tack McKinley, Sterling Shepard, Nick Bosa, Solomon Thomas, Raheem Mostert as well, also gone. Any other names that you boys want to mention? Or
Jimmy G, high ankle sprain, I think it is in the end. Shouldn't keep him out massively, but
looking
it's still
3 to 4
consider.
weeks, I think, with Garoppolo.
I think it's Steve Ford as well. Another one for the Niners have been gutted.
Yeah.
Some long-term out for the season and other that are just sort of a few weeks, but enough to really derail what they had going there.
Yeah, and the thing that really is going to hurt is a lot of these injuries are season-ending.
Yeah.
I mean, Saquon Barkley, season-ending injury. There's talks, a lot of rumours that Devonta Freeman is going to be signing there.
I think that's dependent on COVID testing, pretty much. The last thing for that. If he passes that, he's good.
I don't think... I mean, I'm the resident Giants fan. I've been quite high on them. I know they've looked not great, but there have been flashes. I think there were some flashes from Danny Dimes this weekend. Okay, he didn't get the touchdown, but he led a very competent 2-minute drill downfield and put them in a position to maybe tie the game up. And he did, and crucially didn't throw a pick right at the end there. He's going to miss. He's going to miss having Shepherd and Barkley. Barkley out for the season. Nick Bosa and Solomon Thomas both looking like they're gone for the season.
That's right.
Solomon Thomas not as big of a hit, but I mean Nick Bosa is, for me, was going to be a Defensive Player of the Year candidate, so that's always going to be a big hit. So I think all we can. Yeah,
we missed that earlier.
I mean, we could sit here all day, couldn't we, and go through all the people. I think all we can really do is kind of pray to the football gods that that all the guys that are going to be coming back come back quickly and come back healthy. So want to see CMC at his peak. Yeah. I don't really want to see him come back and get injured. So keep him off the field as long as you need. Protect his health, and hopefully everyone gets back healthy and we get some top class football out of these top class players.
On that as well, a special shout for Paris Campbell, because his isn't just out for season. All I've seen is indefinitely. I think it's MCL and PCL. I don't know the difference between all the CLs and what combinations are worse than what, but the fact that it's out indefinitely for such a young player, that could be
who looked like he might have been poised to have a bit of a breakout and finally make a stamp on that team and kind of live up to his second round pick kind of value.
Yeah, but overall, a lot of elite level players going to be missed out this season. Although we will see another elite level player come back in with Blake Bortles, signed the Broncos, which is good to see.
In time to scorch the Bucks.
So yeah, of course, yeah. But yeah, as Sam said, obviously prayers up, football gods that we have no more injuries, and this did feel like a bad week for injuries, but perhaps good time to move it on to Sam's rationalisation Monday. What is this segment going to be like, Sam?
Yeah. So Sam does rationalisation Monday. So obviously, every kind of Monday across the podcaster space and in this kind of media thing, everyone likes to do overreaction Monday. And last week we kind of embellished that, and we went for just ridiculous reactions, things that were just out there, ridiculous. Now this week I kind of thought, let's flip it. Let's rationalise some things. Let's go back and let's look at some teams that the three of us coming into the season, we thought they were going to be proper teams. We thought they had real kind of chances to be good teams, be in the mix. And for the first couple of weeks, both of these teams that I'm kind of going to talk to you guys about here have looked, straight up bad. Yeah. Okay, they're okay, you can make some excuses for both of them, but both teams have looked bad. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to give each of you one of these teams, and in maybe 90 seconds, I want you to kind of give me what you think it is. Say you're in charge of the team. What do you think this team needs to do to turn their season around so that they're still playing football in January? So Matt, I'm going to start with you, and we're going to go with the Philadelphia Eagles. I know you were really high on these guys.
Yeah, so I was very high on them all off season, then all the injuries started rolling in. I think the long and short of it is maybe they just need to pray. I don't know, it's not looking great. But in all seriousness, I think actually they just need to be patient. It's been a rough start. They had a bad start last year. Last year they scraped in to the playoffs. They did it through winning the division. I think the Cowboys, if they can sort out a defense, should be doing that. But there's an extra wildcard spot this year. It makes it easier to make the playoffs, so they've got that going for them. What they've also got is they've got a lot of potential. Whenever you've got someone like Carson Wentz there, as much as this O-line in week 1, it was all just let up 8 sacks. No sacks this week, and that was against Aaron Donald. Obviously, Wentz still didn't look good.
That's a great point.
But if you get him on page, he'll be fine, and you know it's there. So I think, and you can see head coach come out, he's not worried. So I think they just need to be patient, give Wentz the time, just get him on page and get this offense rolling. Because I think this defense it's not going to be one of the top in the league, but it's also, I think, once they get together, not going to be the worst. Once they get over all these injuries they've had across the board. So I think genuinely it's just be patient. Their next games, they've got the Bengals. That's winnable. I think that's a game where they can come out, get the season back on track. After that, they've got the Niners, who are still going to be reeling. If you're ever going to grab a win against them, this is when you do it. And I think, especially with that D-line for the Niners being completely blown apart by injury, gives Wentz another nice, maybe slightly easier game to get back into it, gets them back to 2-2. As much as they've got 2 difficult games straight off the back of that in Pittsburgh and then the Ravens. After that, Giants, who I think they should beat, and then Cowboys again in division. So they can get themselves to their bye week 4-4, and from there we've seen it, they can make a run and scrape in. So I think genuinely patience, smart coaching, and just get Wentz rolling.
I really agree with you. I think the key thing for me in that one is get Wentz rolling. I think this season and this team hinges around Wentz and his consistency. I think it's very hard to argue that he's one of the more talented quarterbacks in the league on his day, but he is also one of the most inconsistent, in my opinion, because, I think that Washington game was a great example of it. For the first quarter and a half, you were looking at Wentz and he was playing at his best. He was playing really good football. He can get it out quick. He can deliver it up and down the field. He can move a bit. But then he can just fall apart. It's kind of like the Trubisky thing where you'll get 3 quarters of something and then fourth quarter Mitch Trubisky comes up. So I agree with you. If you can get Wentz rolling, that is, in my opinion, their route to kind of getting back in the mix and getting their season back on track.
I think a big guy to keep an eye out for that is Rager. Target share already went up, I think it was about mid-50s to 89, I believe, week 1 to week 2. They look a little bit not quite in sync. You get those two in sync, and you get him just a weapon he can go to, and then Miles Sanders, that's enough to get him rolling.
I agree. Now, James, I've given you one that I think is a bit harder than what I gave Matt. I think obviously the Eagles, you can make some more excuses, and I think they've shown that they can still win games. I've given you the team that we were all very high on coming into. We thought they were going to be a very good team. And through the first 2 weeks of the season, they've looked like maybe one of the 4 or 5 worst teams in the NFL. They haven't really been able to move the ball. Their defense has looked lackluster at best. And there just hasn't really been a lot of bright sparks here. And I am, of course, talking about the Minnesota Vikings. James, what does this team need to do to be there in January?
I think... Matt said it there as well. Don't panic. Very similar sort of thing here. Don't panic. 2 games in, small sample size. There's still time to correct your mistakes. But ultimately, there's a few points above and beyond that, which I believe are quite important. The first one is stopping the run this season. Average 155 rushing yards so far. And their schedule, there's a lot of good running backs they're about to face. They're facing the Titans next. Derrick Henry, obviously, absolute animal. Texans, David Johnson, another good running back. The Falcons, they've got Todd Gurley as well. Then they're back against the Packers, and you saw what Aaron Jones did last weekend. That's just to name a few. There's a few other teams down the line as well, where stopping the run is going to be pretty important for this team to stay in the games, really. Second point is around Kirk Cousins. I think we can all agree he's looked pretty bad, especially in the last game.
Yeah.
I think his QB rating across 2 games is about 60-ish, which isn't good enough. 7.8% interception rate across the 2 games, with a 3.9% touchdown rate, which means statistically he's more likely to throw an interception than he is a touchdown, which is not what you want from a quarterback. Again, small sample sizes across 2 games. It's hard to read into how much this really means. But, he's just been paid very handsomely, so he should be firing all cylinders from the get-go. So the key here is to turn that around. And also, you saw in the last couple of games, he's really been focusing on Adam Thielen. He's sort of been homing in on getting the ball to him, similar to what we saw with Baker Mayfield in the first game of OBJ. It's that tunnel vision, which can really let you down, throwing it into double coverage sometimes, which isn't the best option. There's other good receiving options on that team. Justin Jefferson, Kyle Rudolph, even the running back core, Madison and Cook, have the ability to catch the ball. So start looking at them, get him to get on a page with them and stop using Thielen so much, or stop trying to use Thielen so much.
Yeah.
And then third and finally is lean on Dalvin Cook a bit more.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's on average rushing a lot less than last season already. He had 12 attempts in week 1, 14 in week 2. And you know what? In week 2, he had 6 rushing attempts before half-time. But at which point, they're 15 and 3 down.
Yeah.
So what can he do? They need to lean on that running game a bit more as well. So those are 3 things I think they can do, that they need to do to try and correct this early season form.
What I really, really love about hearing what you just said is the way that your kind of first point about stopping the run, and then your third point about getting the run going and leading on the run game go hand in hand so well. From a coach's perspective, getting hold and getting a grip of the game, of the kind of the game plan, and taking control and controlling time of possession and things like that. That starts with stopping the other team from running the ball and running the ball yourselves. If you can do that, that allows you to control the game script, which I think is one of the things that historically the Vikings have done quite well, and they've got one of the better coaches in the league who is good at all of these things. So I completely agree with you. The one thing that I would add that I think you might have missed there, that I think they really, really need to fix, and I think it's actually their biggest kind of glaring weak spot at the moment, is maybe Stefan Diggs was the most important part of that offense last year, and maybe he has been for a couple of years. Yet you are really seeing when Stefan Diggs is not on that field, Adam Thielen just isn't as productive because the field's not being stretched as much. There's a lot of there's a lot to be said for having that guy, whether it's Diggs himself, who is at the moment one of the better field stretchers in the league, but just having someone who is that threat deep really opens up a lot of space all around the rest of the field. It makes having the run game, like controlling the game with the run, much easier. It makes having those passes over the middle for easy first downs more available. So I think they're really missing that. And until they can until Jefferson works into that role, which he's not there yet, he actually looks pretty raw at the moment. He doesn't look like he's able to step straight in. I think they're going to really struggle. So as soon as, I think that's probably the thing that from like a GM standpoint, before week 8, that's what I'm trying to correct. But I really like what you said about controlling the run.
Nice. And I believe that will bring us very nicely into our week 3 preview segment of the episode. And to kick off, we'll start with Thursday night's game, where the Dolphins go in and play the Jaguars, the Minshew Mania Jaguars, of course. And you know what? Jaguars, they're a tip pass away from being 2-0. Very close loss against the Titans.
Yep.
But, you know, which way do you see this one going? You know, they come up against this Dolphins team that 0-2, lost against the Bills, but they looked a lot better in week 2. So do you see that continuing and them giving it a game, or is this Jaguars?
I think the Dolphins are actually quietly quite a good team. Their kind of 0-2 record isn't necessarily indicative of the type of team they are. Yeah. Yes, I think they're a couple of seasons away from being a genuine contender, but I don't put them in that bottom bracket of teams that are going to be fighting for the first overall pick this year. I think they can pick up wins. But there's something about Gardner Minshew. I mean, Gardner Minshew went toe-to-toe with Phillip Rivers week 1 and won. Yep. He went toe-to-toe this week with Ryan Tannehill, who I don't think is a great quarterback, but I put Tannehill at that kind of Andy Dalton level, who's a very good, like kind of middle-of-the-pack starting quarterback, can win a lot of games with him. And Tannehill was playing one of his much better games. Yeah. So, like, Tannehill elevated his game, and Minshew just brought it up to match it. And yes, he made a couple of mistakes, but that's going to happen with the way Minshew plays football. He's the kind of guy who doesn't get rattled. He's happy to throw it deep. And you saw on a couple plays, he just made aggressive throws that worked. And yes, some of them will be picks, but there's something about Minshew. I'm taking the Jags at -3.
Yeah, 100% for me as well, taking the Jags. I think what you said about the Dolphins, about being one of those teams you don't think is sort of competing for that first, I'm taking the Jags out of that now. I think there's going to be just the character around this team, and there's going to be a real drive. I think there's a lot of guys who I'm earning my spot. I'm proving that, no, we're not the worst team. We're not guaranteed to get Trevor Lawrence. We're not all of this and that. And yeah, I love the Jags for this season. I think they're looking a lot better. I'm not going to get ahead of myself and say anything stupid of playoffs or anything mad like that. But they're going to be midfield. I think they could sneak it, the extra wild card, but I'm not going to go that far with them yet. Want to see them do it past week 4, week 5, week 6, really get into like the middle of the season. But for now, I think they're going to essentially just be a middle of the pack team. And I think against the Dolphins, I think they'll take this, because my big thing is Fitzpatrick doesn't look like Fitzmagic.
Yeah.
I think if you just had him playing, he doesn't even need to be Fitzmagic, but just not turning the ball over. It's like he's costing them games in places here, and I think the Jags take this quite comfortably. I think I'd take them with the spread as
Yep.
well. I think I could see this being quite a assertive game for the Jags potentially.
Yeah, it's quite a short spread as well at -3, so I would definitely take the Jags on that one. I think that's a very low option here as well, and definitely take the Jags on that one. But moving it on to the Sunday slate, and we'll kick it off with 6 p.m. games, of course. And we're looking at the Rams going in to play the Bills. Both teams off the back of wins, both 2-0 on the season. But you know what? This is the first time that the Bills will really go up against a good offense. Matt, do you reckon they'll be able to handle it this week?
I'm leaning Rams on this one, I think. I like what I'm seeing so far. I think quite a lot in Jared Goff. Just seems quick. He seems with it this year. Not necessarily like I'm not saying any mad MVP sort of things, but I think good enough to take this Rams team far. And Josh Allen's worrying me a little bit at points. He's putting up some good games. He is getting the job done in places, but there's, I think both weeks now we've seen him fumble the ball or do something just that you watch and go, why has he done that? It only takes a close game with 2 good teams him to do that once and they lose the game.
Yeah.
It's going to be a good game. This is almost potentially almost one of those games that feels a bit more like a later season preview kind of thing of 2 teams that should be very good and fighting for a spot in January. But I'm taking the Rams on this to edge this one out.
Interesting. I am going to take the Bills at -1.5 because I think there is a very good chance. Now, I'm not writing the Rams off. If we get to this time next week and we're talking about how the Rams came out and they just soundly beat the Bills, I wouldn't be shocked. But I think there's a good chance this is the game that everyone will be talking about in 10 or 11 weeks as the first game that everyone went, oh, the Bills mean business. Mm-hmm. This is a mean defense that have got all the pieces to just put together. They've got maybe the most underrated cornerback in the league in Tre'Davious White. I think he might be, I mean, if it wasn't for Stephon Gilmore in his own division, then Tre'Davious White might be in that conversation for best corner in the league at the 100%. Moment. He is that good. They've got a number of pieces on that defense that are good. And the addition of Stephon Diggs has opened up that offense so much that you're now you look at the completion rate for kind of Josh Allen on deep targets. Like for first couple years, he has a big arm, but he wasn't really completing a lot of these targets. That has shot up since Diggs is there. Now being able to open up that field so much more just gives them so many more options. When you add on top of that the fact that he can move so well and he is so athletic, if he can stay healthy, he for me is going to be in the MVP conversation this year because I think he's just going to score a lot of points. He will make silly mistakes, but I think that's in the same kind of... I put him in that kind of Brett Favre kind of bracket of people who they put up big numbers and they score lots of points and they win lots of games and they throw a lot of interceptions, but that's just how they play. So I think this could be the game that the Bills make their first kind of we're here, we mean business, and we are definitely going to be winning this division.
Yeah, I can definitely see that happening. Big fan of the Bills. I've mentioned a few times now, I think, as well. So, I'll be taking the Bills on the spread on this one as well. But you can never write off the Rams, and that sums up this game, I think, quite well. Okay, so moving things forward to the 49ers going to face your Giants, Sam. And just off the bat, real quick, you've got to send a prayer to the 49ers. They're playing on the same field as they did last week where they had all the injuries. And they moaned about the field being the issue. So this could be another situation. More injuries, who knows if that is the true reason. But my question to you, Sam, is, can the Giants capitalise on the 49ers basically missing their starting lineup without Saquon?
No. They're going to really... The Giants offensively are going to really struggle without having all of their complement of pieces. The one thing I do like about Daniel Jones at the moment is he's really not afraid to spread out the ball. So he's not locking himself into one specific target, which I like, which means I think that the Giants in general are kind of going to be more able to cope. However, I think the Niners are just a better coach team, so I think the Niners will win this game. I think they will take it just on probably having a bit more talent. But I think this could be one of the more ugly games of the week to watch. I would bet rather heavily on this being the under, and I don't even know what the over-under is, just because, I mean, I would imagine Nick Mullins will be starting for the Niners. I think the Niners defense will be good enough to hold the Giants in check for the most part. And I just think this could be an ugly game of football.
I think this is just which team can stay more almost kind of liquid to what's going on for them and just kind of roll with the punches a bit. Because as much as the 49ers have had all their injuries, feels like come off the weekend, the Giants have had, obviously, big ones on the weekend, but also a few coming into the season. We're only 2 weeks in, they're still adjusting. So I think it was a few on the defensive side of the ball. So this is two teams that are almost both are pretty gutted for how early we are in the season. And I just think the 49ers, just as a whole, are just a better team.
Yeah.
So I think it's almost like you've kind of brought the level of both teams down, but equally, and the 49ers are ahead to begin with. So I think, I haven't got any, if I was a 49ers fan, I haven't got any concerns for this game. I think you can kind of still get the win here and kind of try and right the ship a little bit. But I don't think it's necessarily going to be an exciting game. I think it's going to be a first half of two teams trying to figure things out a little bit.
If the 49ers don't win this game, there will be some serious questions asked and people might start to panic a little bit. Because although the 49ers have been hit by injury, so have the Giants. And the Giants, and it does pain me to say it, but given the first couple of weeks, the Giants are probably going to be picking top 5 again this year.
It's looking likely, yeah.
Oh, that must be painful for you to say that. But you also mentioned the under-over of this game, Sam. It is currently at 40.5.
Oh, maybe I would take the over then, because that's very low.
Well, the lowest I've seen it in a little while,
Yeah.
for sure, from memory anyway. So even Vegas is expecting this to be a kicker's game, if you like. So yeah, maybe the over's an option there, but only because it is so low. But moving swiftly on to the Tennessee Titans, the 2-0 Tennessee Titans, who go into Minnesota and play the 0-2 Vikings. Now, Matt, Titans allowed 480 total yards to the Jags in week 2.
Mm-hmm.
So quite a bit.
Yeah, fair few.
Are we likely to see a repeat of that in going into week 3 against this Vikings team?
I'm very doubtful. Cousins isn't kind of having a Minshew kind of season. It looks very different seasons. I mean, Minshew's just being allowed to just absolutely throw the ball, and the Jags seems like what they're going off is their offense, whereas the Vikings is just a bit of a mess. I think there is, as I said, don't panic. I think there will be people panicking in that building, and maybe people trying to overcorrect. And I think the Titans keep rolling here. I think they've come out, they've looked good. Tannehill's kept up his record of multiple touchdown games. They haven't really had to necessarily have a game where you look at it and say they have just lent on Derrick Henry to just run them through the game. So I think it's pretty cut and dry for me. The Titans will take this win. They'll keep it rolling. Move to 3-0. Just keep moving.
I get the feeling this is going to be that game that Derrick Henry has his lean-on game.
Mm-hmm.
That Vikings D-line is not going to be able to stop him.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think they'll get up early and they will just hand it off because let's not do anything silly. Let's just win a game. We don't need to do anything flashy. Get everyone through. Keep everyone healthy. How are we doing? Keep it moving. That kind of thing. Titans being at minus 1.5 seems to me like the steal of the week betting wise.
100%.
Lock that one up.
I don't know why that's so low. That is.
Also, I can't bet on the Vikings after telling everyone on Twitter to bet on the Vikings, and then everyone getting absolutely just hammered at the weekend on it. So I'm steer clear of the Vikings.
You never know. It might be just a bogey team where if you bet against them, they win. You bet for them, they lose. It might be one of those teams. Yeah. You never know. So
maybe I'm just a bogey bet picker.
You won on Sunday?
I won my 80 to 1
you did.
parlay. So wishing I'd put more than 25p on that now.
Just saw you.
What's up?
20 quid slid calmly into my betting account. If I'd only just put like 20 quid on the bet.
Never gonna happen. But swiftly moving on from the betting side of things and back on to the fixture list. And we've got the Washington football team going into Cleveland to play the Browns. Browns, nice little win against the Bengals in week 2. Washington, not so good, lost against the Cardinals. But Sam, do you expect the Browns backfield of Hunt and Chubb to sort of eat up the Washington defense like they did to the Bengals in week 2?
I think that Washington might stand a better chance against the Browns than the Bengals did, purely because of how Washington is built.
Yep.
Washington is built with this mean defensive line that are going to be probably quite good against the run and probably be able to swallow up Chubb. If you can swallow up Chubb and you take that kind of ground control away from the Browns, this Browns team is built to win on the ground. They want to run the ball 20 to 25 times with Chubb. They want to use Kareem Hunt frequently. He's probably going to get 10 to 15 touches, a mixture of a couple carries and targets out of the backfield, but they want it to run through those two guys. If you can take Chubb out of the equation and you lean more on Kareem Hunt, who's more of the receiving guy, and then put the ball in Baker's hands, you've got a much better chance of forcing Baker to mess it up. So I think that's their route to victory. If they can't stop Chubb, they can't win the game. If they can stop Chubb, they can stop the Browns controlling it on the ground, and they can win this game. The Browns at -6.5 to me seems like a bit of a stretch. I might be tempted to take Washington at +6.5.
I think for me, you're being a little bit harsh on Kareem Hunt there. I think what we're seeing so far, I think you don't just have to stop Chubb running it, and that's like the secret to that backfield, and kind of just put a man shadowing Hunt. I think this is more, you've got to shut them both down and be ready for whichever of them comes into the game, because they both look like they have the ability to be the guy in the backfield, and I think they're just going to run that as hard as they can and just kind of keep it rolling. But you said it, the Redskins D-line is mean. We saw them absolutely just dominate, not the Washington football team. Their D-line is mean. You saw them, they ruined Wentz, 8 sacks. They could really have Baker out here running for his life. So I think the Browns have to make the run game work. That's it. And I think I said that last week. I think that's their season. They obviously, when needed, can get Baker to do it. We saw he finally linked up with Odell for a big touchdown. But they just need to lean on the run. And just between those two guys, they can afford to just run the ball for 4 straight quarters. Because those two guys, they can just split the load fine and get it done. I think I am taking the Browns for this one. I think they are going to start to kind of find their feet, quite literally, and just run the ball. And I think I'd take them with the spread for this one. I think there's only so much.
The spread worries me. The spread worries me.
I think this Washington football team, it was a good win against the Eagles. I think the way it was done in a comeback is not something you're going to see them do every week. And I think this is the start of them kind of declining back.
Washington could really struggle offensively this season. That is where I think they would potentially lose this game.
Mm-hmm.
But if they could stop the Browns enough and, like you said, take that running game away, then this is the kind of game that I think could be very low scoring and a lot of kicking, and it effectively comes down to a field goal or two.
Yeah, I definitely think win condition for the Browns is definitely in the run game. But I, like you, Matt, as well, would be taking the Browns on the spread. I think they can rely on Hunt and Chubb. They did it last week very well.
Yep.
And I think they're both talented enough to be lent on and carry this team to victory this week against the Washington football team. But another matchup we're going to talk about is the Bears going into Atlanta to play the Falcons. Going into Choke City to play the Falcons, I should say.
Love that. Love that.
Our friends over at the Atlanta Falcons UK will not be happy with that one.
Okay, well, I don't take that back. I meant every single word I just said there. They did choke against the Cowboys. I don't think anyone can disagree that they choked against the Cowboys week 2. But my question is more, will they let that affect them this week going in against the Bears?
I don't think necessarily that will be a reason if they lose. I think if they can come out and the offense can just do what it's done for 2 weeks and just put up points this week, they're against a team in the Bears that aren't exactly going to have a quarterback that's going to drive them on a comeback and drive them to win the game in Trubisky. Whereas, obviously, you saw Dak just obviously pulled them back into that game. What was it? I think how many yards he end up with? It was
over 400 passing yards, 3 rushing
400.
touchdowns.
You're not going to see that from Trubisky.
I believe.
I think they put the points on the board this time, and I think if they can against that Bears defense, not taking anything away from them, but I think if this Falcons offense can keep rolling, this is a game where the other team probably won't be able to keep up, and they'll get a win just off the offense.
Yeah, that game at the weekend is literally a once in a lifetime kind of event of a game.
Twice if you're a Falcons.
I was going to say it twice.
But I believe going into that game, teams that were up by 15 points with 5 minutes to go, or whatever it was, were 430-0. They're now 430-1. They're the first team ever to have something like that happen to them. And you could argue there was some poor coaching in there. No one wanting to be the guy to dive on that ball and potentially get something wrong. So I think they'll learn from that. What's not being talked about enough by a lot of people, in my opinion, is just how the Bears are a 2-0 team with big parentheses for me. They have played 2 of the worst teams in the league and only just scraped by them. Yep. I mean, they very nearly went to overtime against the Giants. They allowed Daniel Jones and a beat-up offense to march down the field in a 2-minute drill against them, against what is supposed to be their strength in defense.
Yeah.
And they allowed the Giants to go down and do that and almost tie up the game. And then you look at the offense, they only put up 17 points against probably the worst defense in the league against the Giants. What's that all about? Then the week before that, you've got the Lions, who are arguably as big of a choke team as the Falcons at the moment. That's 2 weeks on the trot that the Lions have had double-digit leads and just choked them away, just given them away. They've played 2 bad teams, scraped by them, and not looked good doing it. They've in 8 quarters of football, offensively they've looked good for 1, and defensively they've looked okay for 2. I'm not impressed at all by this Bears team. The Falcons, on the flip side, have played one team who we think have got the potential to be quite good, and one team who I think are very good. So, and they were both close games. So I don't think this is even close. I think the Falcons should win this comfortably.
Yeah, I fear for the Bears this week. I mentioned it last episode. Mitch Trubisky, you never know what you're going to get. So who knows what version of him turns up this week. And Sam, you mentioned there as well, Bears had a 17-0 halftime lead against the Giants, who were without their star piece, Saquon Barkley, and they still managed to lose by 4, only win by 4. So I have deep concerns there. And this Falcons team, I think there's a lot of talented players there. I've mentioned it a few times now. I won't mention it again and again, but obviously Hayden Hurst, Calvin Ridley, Julio Jones.
Calvin Ridley looked
Hayden Hurst,
very good.
Very, very good.
Did I mention Hayden Hurst?
Hayden Hurst made a couple good catches.
A touchdown, good fancy.
Pretty
but
good.
What I mean is this Falcons team, I think, is pretty talented. Just need it to click, and I think this could be the game to really
offensively
get 'em going.
they are.
Yeah. That's what I mean, and Falcons are 3.5 favourites on the spreads. I'll be taking it all day. All day of the week.
I'm with you on that one.
So although I joked about being a choke team, I've actually been quite nice to them now. So come at me,
Please don't choke our bets away.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see what happens. But Falcons, I think, definitely back on this one. But moving on to 2 teams who are both 0-2 and looking to get their season off the ground and running is the Bengals and the Eagles. Of course, the Eagles being the home team this week. Mm-hmm. And Matt mentioned the Eagles earlier, but I'm looking at more of the Bengals defense at this point. Can they finally turn up and stop this something to prove Eagles offense?
No. I think, if I'm honest, I think this is the game where we see the Eagles start to get things back on track. I think this is a great time for this game to come for them. One that it's not just going to be like a walkover where they get ahead of themselves. I think with what we've seen so far from Burrow, he can put some work together on offense. He can lead some drives. He can make a game of it. So I think it's not just like they're being given this, but I think it's a game they should win. And I think it's one as well where maybe their defense, especially this D-line, can start to feel quite good because I'm not convinced by the Bengals O-line. So I think this is one where maybe they can get a bit of confidence going on the defensive side of the ball and just getting some pressure on the quarterback. And then at the same time, just kind of Wentz kind of slow it down, not throw some silly picks, just get rolling. And I'm taking the Eagles comfortably here. I think all they're not really considering this too much, which who knows, could go completely wrong and the Bengals end up 0-3. But I think this is where they get it going back on track.
I'm going to come in with the spicy pick, and I'm taking the Bengals at +3. I think I can't even necessarily kind of justify myself logically. I've just got a feeling this is the week that Joe Burrow comes in and he makes his real statement that he's here to win games. He's not a big media guy. He just wants to win. He's looked very confident and competent for a rookie quarterback, and I think this is the team. This is the easiest game they've had so far, and they took okay, there were a couple garbage time touchdowns and stuff, but he looked okay against the Browns. If he can not turn the ball over, if Joe Mixon can get going just a little bit more, then I think Burrow can win this game.
Yeah, certainly got the ability.
Mixon is a big point for this game as well. They need Mixon to show up because he's been a bit lackluster, I think, so far for me. Like, especially getting paid finally, you think he'd come
you've
out
got
and
to show
just
up.
absolutely run over teams. But yeah, so he's a big factor on this game.
Yeah, and Eagles -3 on the spread. I find this one a tough one to call personally, but we'll see what happens.
Coin flip for me. For me, but I'm going out on a limb and I'm saying that the Bengals take it.
Yeah, coin flip. I think that sums it up very nicely. Okay, so I think we should talk about the Texans.
It's not a question, is it? This is not a question for me.
Yeah.
Going in to face the Steelers. Okay.
It's not a question. This is such a not question. This is a Texans offense that has not been able to click really at all in the 2 weeks that we've seen them going up against the best defense in the league.
Didn't let me finish. I was going to say Texans have arguably the toughest open run this season.
Oh,
Chiefs
absolutely.
and the Ravens. Do we have any questions here? Was my next bit. But you answered that one there, Sam. There is no questions.
They just aren't.
So over to you, Matt. Any other questions?
Nah, I think part of me really wants to see the Texans do something, but this ain't the game. This ain't where it happens. Like, it's a brutal opening to the season, but I think this could just be part of the Texans sort of ended up 0-3. You're then gonna get a feeling in that locker room of no, this is not how our season goes. Especially someone like Deshaun Watson, who is he's a winner. He's not going to be happy sat there seeing 0-3. And I think they've got everything they need on this offense to, when they get it working and get kind of over this, like, not a honeymoon, almost the opposite of a honeymoon period of losing Hopkins and kind of figuring out, right, what are we actually doing? Who's going to be the guy? How are we going to make this work? The second they get that going, they're fine. But I think for this week, this Steelers defense is just mean.
It's the best defense.
It's mean.
The only way I see the Texans having a hope in hell is if JJ Watt comes out and has a better game than he did last week. And last week, JJ Watt looked really good. I mean, he looked like JJ Watt from back when he was winning Defensive Player of the Year perennially. JJ Watt was that good last week. He needs to come out, do that, but better. He needs to completely swallow up James Conner and those running backs. He needs to completely swallow up to just put all the pressure on Roethlisberger and force Roethlisberger to make quick throws, which Roethlisberger doesn't necessarily enjoy doing as much. If they can get that pressure on Roethlisberger and force him to make decisions quickly, they might stand a chance. But going up against that defense, for an offense that has looked like they're on different pages to one another, I do not give them much chance at all.
Yeah, and
JJ Watt, I think what you said there, he needs to injure Big Ben. Not wishing it on him at all. Genuinely, if Big Ben goes down, I can see the Texans winning. The whole time Big Ben's standing. I don't. Obviously, I'm not wishing that on him. I'm not saying I want that to happen or that should happen. Like, I'm just saying that is, I think, if that's unfortunate enough to happen,
that's the kind of thing that needs to happen.
That's the only way they get.
To give him a shot. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
And do you know what? The spread for this one is -3 for the Steelers. And wait for it. It's the steal of the week. That's what I'm telling you.
Oh,
it's the steal of the week. Mic drop. If I had an actual mic that I could drop.
Maybe
Steal
don't
of the
drop
week.
that.
Yeah,
Those
please
mics
don't.
aren't cheap, mate. Those mics aren't cheap.
The point in principle, just imagine me doing it. But Steelers at -3, definitely one to take. Hammer that one. Put all your money on that. Put your house on that. Put your kids on that. That's coming in.
think you got a problem.
I'm ready for Matt to clip this up ultimately next
Yep.
week when it doesn't. But I think that is the lock. We mentioned it earlier. I think we had another lock up of the week. This is a second one, if you like.
James's lock up of the week.
Yeah, definitely Steelers at -3. I like that an awful lot. Another team I like an awful lot, and they've got a good running back who, again, I like an awful lot. Is the Raiders, the 2-0 Raiders, coming off the back of a big win against the Saints, Monday Night Football, going in to play the New England Patriots. They lost to the Seahawks this week, but this Raiders team is looking pretty strong, Sam, do you reckon they could remain undefeated going through this week?
Oh, I don't like to say that. I will admit I haven't seen all of the highlights from last night's game. It was quite a late one, and I had to go to work, so I've seen bits and bobs. Yep. I very much got the feeling that some of that victory. Now, while I'm not taking away from the Raiders because they did play well, I think if Michael Thomas is in that Saints game, it's a completely different story. I think what that showed you, the big takeaway from last night's game with the Saints, is that Michael Thomas is even more fundamental to this offense than maybe even people gave him credit. And he was already getting given credit for being maybe the best receiver in the league. Now, I don't think he's the best receiver in the league, but after last night, I will not argue that he's not the most important receiver in the league for his team. I mean, without having him there, Breeze looked like a 43-year-old quarterback. Now, I think the Patriots they came out week 1 and they looked solid. This is a team that will work into the thing. It's a very complicated system. You've got Cam, who didn't come in until later in the off season. It remained unsigned till like June 28th or something. Came in late, so he only got his hands on the Patriots playbook then, which is notorious for being maybe the most complicated playbook in the league. And he came out week 1 and looked good, and then he came out week 2 and looked better. It just so happened that they were playing a team who I think are probably a real contender for the Super Bowl this year in the Seahawks, and that he ran into Russell Wilson, who is playing the best football Russell Wilson has ever played. So I think if the Raiders can go in and win this game, which I don't think they can, but if they can, they're suddenly a competitor in that division.
I think for me, as much as I like what I'm seeing from the Patriots, I think, they're going to play into the season. They're going to be competitive to be there when it matters at the end of the year. What struck me with this Raiders team is, I think it was a video of John Gruden in the locker room with the players after. They are so bought in. That is a locker room that is so united. I think there's a real belief in that locker room of we're going to come out and beat, like, no one's going to see us coming. And I think this is the game where they really, against the Saints, you can kind of give excuses. Michael Thomas wasn't there, but it was a game where they started to assert themselves, and there's a few people saying, hang on, Raiders look good. This is where they follow it up, they keep it rolling, and this is where they beat out the Patriots, and they really say, oh no, we're serious. We are rolling behind Gruden, and I don't know how, but we're going for it. Because Carr looked very good against a good Saints defense. Say what you want about the Saints offense, that defense, still that same good defense, and Carr looked good, looked efficient, did what he needed to do.
The one thing they won't have at the Patriots, though, which is what I worry, which is what I think might have affected them kind of last night, is first game, brand new stadium in Vegas. Whether there's fans there or not, all of these guys are going to be pumped up. Brand new stadium. Yeah. We've got to go. Prime time game. We have got to go out and make a statement. And when you're then in Foxborough and you're not in your brand new stadium and you're not on Monday Night Football, then not all of that, because I do believe they're bought in with the whole Gruden thing, and I kind of like the way Gruden coaches and the whole knock on wood and get everyone hyped up and bought in, and his kind of old school football. But maybe you lose some of that, and maybe some of that is kind of a one-off Monday Night Football, new stadium, element. But I will, if this time in a week we're sat here and the Raiders went in and beat the Patriots and looked good doing it, then as I've said before, I suddenly have them as a real competitor in the division.
I think it's that thing of the Monday Night Football new stadium, all the buzz you get from that. If you lose, it goes. When you win, you can
could
keep
carry
it
that
rolling,
yeah.
and it just becomes momentum that you don't really know. You can't really put a word on it. You can't really put your finger on it, but it's just there. It's in the locker room when they're all in there, when they're training, when they're hitting the weight room, whatever. There's just a buzz. That's the kind of thing you can just keep going and keep going.
Yeah, and Sammy mentioned there, and the knock on wood thing, which Gruden said last year in Hard Knocks. You can firmly see that every member in that locker room is knocking on wood right now.
Oh,
and I am fully with them. I'm fully on the Oakland, Las Vegas Raiders hype train. I'm fully on board. I can see the Raiders taking this game. I'm taking them on the spread. I know they're the underdogs here. The spread being minus 5.5 for the Patriots.
100%.
I'm taking the Raiders in that. Fully on board. I'm knocking on wood every minute of the day for this one. So
Definitely.
yeah, definitely excited to see that win come in. Right. The Panthers 0-2. Lost in week 2 against your Bucks, Matt. Going up into Las Vegas. New stadium for the Las Vegas Chargers, who are 1-1 of the season. Panthers are heavy favourites in this game, I think you can say. Minus 6.5, so just under a score.
Is that legit?
That's surprising.
That is
that a
legit.
legit stat? Like, that's legit what... Did they
That
not
is-
see the Chargers game?
Very surprising.
Wait. Yeah, no, no, hold on. No, that is the Chargers are minus 6.5.
Right, I was gonna say. You had,
What's going on here?
I was
just
like,
testing you.
right, okay, guys, put your house on the the Panthers.
Yeah, right.
The Chargers at plus 6.5. That is, yeah.
I was just keeping you on your toes, seeing you still awake. You passed the test, congratulations. That enables you to answer my next question. You're through to the next round. Actually, I've got 2 questions for this one. It's around the Chargers quarterback. Who do you think will start for the Chargers? And who do you think should start?
Anthony Lynn has come out and said, hasn't he, that as soon as Tyrod's back, that Tyrod's going to be the guy and that he's the starter. But I don't understand how, having watched the game at the weekend, supposedly Herbert had like literally 10 seconds, like as they were kicking the ball off, they were literally like, by the way, you're starting an NFL game. Oh, and it's against the Chiefs and Mahomes, the defending Super Bowl champions. And he just went out there and he was brilliant. He played really well. He didn't let the moment get to him. He played really sound football. And the thing that I absolutely loved watching was, I think it was in the second quarter, he took a hit where he got drilled. I mean, there was no holding back. And he literally hit the floor. And he was back up, shrugging it off before he'd even, literally, he was pushing himself up as he hit the floor. Now, that is almost like a middle finger to the guy who's hit him, of just like, you can't rattle me. There's nothing you can do. And this is a rookie guy. There were a lot of questions coming in around him, kind of, right, yeah, he did it at Oregon, but is that really going to translate to the next level? Obviously, the last guy that came out of that system in Oregon was a bit of a disappointment, being such a high draft pick. So many questions. I think he's come out and answered them, and he's shown everything you'd want to see from a guy picked there. He's the better quarterback at this point. He gives them the best chance to win. So, if I'm Anthony Lynn with that team, actually, from what I saw the other day, if they play at that level with Herbert, they're a borderline playoff team. You play the guy who gives you that opportunity.
I'm not getting carried away as much. I think I loved what I saw from Herbert. But I actually think he's been taking reps with the first team. We've seen it on Hard Knocks. Like, they're not keeping him away from anything like that. But I think it's almost easier for him being told slightly at the last minute. He hasn't got time to build it up in his head. He is just told, go out there, go play football. You're in a game that no one expects you to win. Take it to him. And I think maybe that makes it slightly easier, and it's such a small sample of just one game. Whereas, well, for the Chargers, obviously, new stadium, that I'm a bit like, I loved what I saw. I think it was a great debut for him. But there's just too many other factors. It's like the adrenaline factor for Herbert would have, I think, may make him played up a bit of where he could be right now. What is Taylor's injury? As well, we just know vaguely it's a chest injury. We don't know if this is something that could keep reoccurring. Is this a one-off? What actually is going on? I think they will... If he's healthy, I think, as I said, I think Taylor will be in, and I think maybe he'll get another couple weeks of that. But if within those 2 weeks, let's say if Taylor starts the next 2 games, this offense doesn't fire, it doesn't start looking good, then you're going to have so much media attention around this and so much hype for it that I can see them changing. But I think for now, they'll keep with Taylor. I think he's Lynn's guy.
Yeah.
At least for this season or the early part of it.
Yeah.
This game, I think I'm running with the Chargers for this. I think the Panthers, I'd be very worried from what I saw. Like, as much as, Bucks up and coming, young defense. The first half especially. Just the turnovers and just some of the things you were seeing, they just didn't look cohesive.
Whether they looked good or not, Christian McCaffrey is injured. Christian McCaffrey accounted for 50% of their offensive touches last season. 50% of their offense, half, ran through one player. You take him out of the squad, and suddenly you've lost half of your offense. A 300-yard game offensively, suddenly a 150-yard game offensively. And that doesn't account for all of the fact that all the other players benefit from having McCaffrey in the backfield, because everyone on the other side of the ball is going, where is McCaffrey and what is he doing? So I think not having McCaffrey makes this defensively a much kind of easier game plan for the Chargers. But also on the flip side of that, this Chargers backfield is really good. Joshua Kelly is a legit NFL player. He's had 2 games, and in both games, even in his first game, he was getting work, and they're giving him the ball, and he's producing with that. Now, that is brilliant for Austin Eckler, because I think that kind of reduces the stress on Eckler. Yeah. He's not a high workload guy. He is more of a target guy, and I think it means that you can have 2 guys in the backfield. Sometimes they had both on the field, which is brilliant, because you don't know what's happening. Kelly can catch out the backfield, but he is more of the bruising running back. And I really like the fact they've been able to replace Gordon with a mid-rounds draft pick. I think it was a 4th-round pick. And he's coming in. He's producing straight off the bat. They're confident in him because they're giving him consistent carries. And they're not shying away from that. But they're also giving it to Eckler. They're spreading the ball around. Keenan Allen looked really good at the weekend. He made a couple of plays. Mike Williams has always got a big play in him. I think the Chargers at 6.5 here is pretty much a lock. Yeah, I definitely agree. The concerns around Christian McCaffrey as well, I definitely would agree with. Just quickly though, on the Chargers last week against the Chiefs, and we mentioned Tyrod Taylor being out just before kickoff. Was it like 10 seconds or whatever it was before kickoff? Yeah. Right. The Chiefs would never have prepared to play Justin Herbert.
Exactly.
That's a great point. That's a great point, yeah.
You can see that in the way the scores happened. The Chargers scored 2 touchdowns before halftime. After halftime, they were limited to field goals. Yeah. So that would sort of explain maybe this...
The no tape effect.
Yeah, exactly. And it explains the anomaly for that Chargers offense.
Also, the offensive being able to go out there, that first couple of drives, a lot of those plays will be scripted. And whether Herbert was aware that he was going to start, he would have been aware of what that script was. So those first couple of drives where he did look like he was at his best, that's the drives he was most prepared.
Yeah, I could see this being a very low-scoring game as well, just quickly off the bat. I get the feeling this could be 2 offenses trying to, if it is Taylor out there, or if it is Herbert now trying to live up to that, kind of trying to get things together, make things happen, and just 2 defenses. The Panthers' defense in the first half against the Bucks was kind of carved up. There was quite a few mistakes on the Bucks side of the ball. We kind of slipped a bit in the second, but they did step up. They did make it harder. Still gave away some big plays, like the one at the end to Fournette, but I think this could be low scoring for me. I think.
Yeah, and the Panthers, again, don't know which quarterback they're going up against because it's still up in the air. So, similar sort of issues to what the Chiefs had last week. So, could see that happen again. But moving on, and I've got a challenge for you on this one, Sam. Don't mention Gase. That's your challenge. Don't mention Gase. And that's, maybe talk a bit more positively about the Jets. The Jets...
Right. They're the worst team in the NFL.
Jets. Oh, you failed it already.
There we go.
Jets 0-2, going into Indianapolis to play the Colts. This has got the highest spread of the week, minus 10.5 on the Colts, and I got it right this time for this team. If I said it the other way around, just shoot me, because that would have been hideously wrong. But Matt, I'll give this one to you to kick it off. Safe to assume the Jets' misery is just going to continue this week, right?
Yeah, I feel like I was the same last week with the Jets. Not much to talk about with them. I'm not expecting anything. I think the Colts, I'm not expecting much from. They're not looking incredible. I think they've got some things to work on, but I think this is just a game where Jonathan Taylor runs the game from. And Rivers is going to make mistakes. He's probably going to throw a pick, maybe two, but Taylor's just going to roll it. He's just going to get running. He's going to run hard. And it's against the Jets anyway, who probably aren't even going to fight back.
I was going to say, I reckon Rivers could throw 10 picks this game and the Colts would still cover. I mean, this Jets team is just painful to watch because they do have talent. That's the thing. You can see with some of the things that Sam Darnold does that he's not a bad quarterback. Mm-hmm. He is just being absolutely royally insert expletive here.
Good.
Well done.
PG
he
friendly.
is being ruined by that organisation. I mean, that is being run so badly at the moment. They didn't seem to want to pay anyone in free agency. His only actual kind of really good, talented offensive weapon at the moment in Le'Veon Bell is injured. Everyone else is either old or what in most other teams would be a third or fourth choice kind of guy. They don't have much around him. They haven't really shored up the offensive line. The defense has just lost all of its best pieces, be that to injury or to trades or to people just not wanting to play there. The best players don't want to play for the Jets. They've drafted poorly over the years, and they're in real danger of just completely wasting Sam Darnold. And my biggest worry is that they're picking at number 1 this year, that they move on from Darnold and kind of basically just throw Darnold's first 3 to 4 years in the league in the bin, and they ruin his first 3 to 4 years, that they pick up Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields or whoever they decide they're going to ruin the first 3 or 4 years of their career, and the exact same thing happens.
I think one potential upside is I think if they're number 1 pick, I don't think you're seeing...
They've got to get
Adam
rid
Gase,
of the... Yeah.
But I don't think you're seeing the same front office. I think they might say...
It's got to be a complete overhaul.
Complete clear out. You're having to, for the second time within a rookie contract, pick a new face of the franchise. So at that point, you've got to say, out with the old. If we're bringing in a new face of the franchise, we want to bring in a new front office for the franchise.
But I mean,
bring in
then,
a new franchise.
Even then, I wouldn't feel confident for that kind of guy because this is historically a badly run franchise. This is a franchise that's never. I mean, Joe Namath. Who else can you think is a real franchise guy at quarterback? Even when they've done well here, they've done it with guys. They've had a couple of good seasons here and there. They're not a team that is consistently run well, and it worries me. I just don't want to see. I mean, Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence especially, I don't want to see what happened to Andrew Luck happen to Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah.
Andrew Luck was so good that he managed to take a lot of mediocre to bad Colts teams to deep into the playoffs, and he was doing that behind an offensive line that just ruined his body, and he had to retire at the age of 29 because his body was just destroyed. Now, say what you will about, he had a snowboarding accident, blah, blah, blah. He took a lot of hits, and that was down to the offensive line. I don't want to see that happen to another guy coming through, and I feel bad for Sam Darnold having to put up with the Gase effect at the moment, which it's just not fair on Darnold.
I think one point I want to raise, one positive potentially for the Jets is Becton on that O-line. He looks like he's adjusting to the league well, and there's been a couple little highlight tapes of him where he's just bullying people. He is just manhandling people at the line of scrimmage. So I think maybe if they can start to see that's happening, at least with the run game, just run behind him. You might not get a lot, it might not be flashy, but it might help you to get the job done and just kind of get something going. But yeah, I think we're all pretty much in agreement, cut and dry for the Colts.
They're probably
Move
Jets
on.
are probably picking at 1, and the Colts are going to win this game.
Yeah, and injuries haven't been kind to the Jets. Obviously, Le'Veon Bell
Mm-hmm.
and Brashad Perriman as well might miss this
loss.
week. And
Big loss.
whenever you miss an elite level receiver like
that's
Brashad
the state
Perriman,
the Jets are in. That is actually a really big loss for them.
The thing is, James is being
all jokes
sarcastic.
aside.
I'm not.
Well, no, all jokes aside, that is the only. If he's your wide receiver 1, that's already a bad sign. Yeah. But if you losing him, who else you got? So it's definitely down on the Jets, and at minus 10.5. This is one of the rare occasions I'd probably take a spread that high. I just can't.
I feel like that
Jets
could be a bit of a trap. I'm probably still going to back it, but I'm actually kind of expecting to lose that. I don't know why. That I could just see this end up being closer than it should be.
I know what you mean.
That's such a large.
Yeah, it's always the case with these high spreads or these high under overs. It's always a bit like, oh, it's a bit high. It's a bit too high.
So it's too high.
Reason, I still think that the Colts should cover that. So about the Colts is what I'm saying. But we do mention high spreads. And moving to the next game, which is the highest spread of the week at 56.5 points. I'm so excited I can't get my words out. The Cowboys.
A lot of points.
Yeah.
Cowboys going into the Seahawks. Seahawks slight favourites here at minus 5. But you know what? 2 quarterbacks who both had huge weeks in week 2.
Massive weeks, yeah.
We expect to see more of the same here, right?
I mean, I think we saw Falcons Seahawks was similar, high scoring game. I think Cowboys offense, we've just seen they can equally keep up with the Falcons offense. So I think this is going to be another potentially big scoring, fun to watch game. I think the Seahawks will take it. I think I really like what I'm seeing from them, and I think Russell Wilson is maybe finally taking that push of just saying, look at me, look at what I'm doing. I've almost got as many touchdowns as incompletions. I want to be MVP.
MVP.
He is. I think he's almost having that season where it's going to get to a point of come on, just give it to the guy. And I think that's just going to keep rolling. I think the Seahawks are a contender beyond the level they normally are if they'll be in the playoffs. I think they're a genuine contender for this year.
Through 2 weeks of the season, Russell Wilson right now is the best player in football. He is. This season, he is the best player in football. And I like the Cowboys. I like Dak. I think the Seahawks win this game. I think they probably cover the spread of minus 5. And I think it's really important that people do look up and they look at the numbers of Russ and they go, actually, he is the best player in football. Yes, Mahomes is immensely talented. And yes, Mahomes is still winning games. But Russell Wilson is, in my opinion, and I think a lot of people would agree with me, this second, the best player in the league.
And you know what, with Russell Wilson, we mentioned it in one of our preview episodes, I think it was, that the reason he hasn't got an MVP vote is because he's been consistently good, but not quite, having those games where you go, oh wow, he's amazing, because he's consistently very good. If he's performing at this level consistently, he's got to win the MVP.
The thing just very quickly that he did in the last game, which really stood out to me. Yes, he threw 5 touchdowns. Obviously, that stands out to everyone. He threw 5 touchdowns to 5 different guys.
Yep.
A lot of people that throw... I mean, you look at Tom Brady's season where he threw 50 touchdowns. 23 of those were to Randy Moss. It's some of that is on Randy Moss just being Randy Moss. Yes, obviously, he's got good receivers in Seattle. He's got a very good receiver core, actually. DK Metcalf's making some plays that is really... He's going
very good.
In my opinion, he's starting to go from beyond, he's going to have a breakout year, to, okay, he's a number 1 top-level receiver for the next 5-6 years minimum. So that's great, and I love that for Russ. But, I mean, he's doing this across all... He's throwing to people that we've never necessarily heard of. He will throw to anyone on the field, and he makes it happen regardless of the talent around him. I think the difference this year is he's finally got some offensive real talent around him, and he's my MVP through 2 weeks, and I pray for him that he gets the MVP.
100%.
Yeah, he'll definitely get a vote, that's for sure. And he's
got my vote.
And that's all he's after, is what I was hearing. You know, he just wanted your vote, Sam. That was it.
Maybe that should be the next social media campaign we get going. We should all get votes for the MVP, the media votes.
What would be the hashtag for that then? Go on the spot.
Hashtag Brit Iron for MVP voting and AP All Pro voting 2020/21.
2021 and beyond.
You're good at these catchy media campaigns. I'm liking this.
Rolls off the tongue. So yeah, if you can get that tweeting, guys, that'd be great.
If that even fits in the character count on Twitter.
Probably doesn't. And you know what? We'll move on to the next game, but we're going to stick on the MVP front. Obviously, Russell Wilson, heavy favourite.
Oh, this is about to get bold,
looking at the Lions going in to play the Cardinals.
Don't say it.
Matthew Stafford, MVP?
Oh, that's not
no. That was it. I'll just throw you off. If Kyler Murray can keep this up, do it against the Lions and continue into week 4 to week 5, could he also be with an MVP shout? Because he has looked pretty impressive so far, right?
He's going to put himself in the conversation, and this is another one of those times where you could see Russ get burnt for that on some votes because it's another sophomore QB in his second year that's looking electric. It's happened before. It will probably happen again, and it could even be this year. Just the way he's playing Kyler Murray, he looks good. I'm kind of getting, obviously, it's an easy comparison in some of the runs he's making, but just sort of Lamar-esque sort of vibes. But I think when he's throwing the ball, he looks like he's throwing the ball better than Lamar was in his MVP season. I think this could be a real, he's going to put himself in that category, I think. Especially within fantasy terms, it's obviously another topic, but just in terms of being one of the good quarterbacks in the league, and up there in that consideration of a guy that you could just put a game on his back. Obviously, he's got some great weapons around him. He's got D-Hop, I know, from Sam's point of view, best receiver in the league. He's in that conversation. He's in that top 2 or 3. He's very good, so that's going to make him look better. But he just looks electric, and some of the runs, he's just so shifty. Like, if I'm on the defense, you just can't stop it sometimes, because you're running to him just a metre to your left. The next thing you know, he's 5 metres past you on your right-hand side, and you're like, well, how did he get over there? He just looks incredible.
Rapid.
I think in terms of that MVP question, and it's week 2, so having the MVP question now is maybe kind of null and void. Or so much football to be played, but I see 4 real contenders at this point, and then I would put Kyler Murray as that guy on the edge. I think you've got Josh Allen, who is still a real contender. He's putting up big numbers. He's got a great team around him, could win a lot of games. If he continues what he's doing, he will be in that conversation. Russell Wilson, who is putting up huge numbers, has got a great team around him, going to win a lot of games, so will be in that conversation. Lamar Jackson, going to win a lot of games, got a great team around him, and he's better than he was last year. He might not put up similar numbers, but a lot of these guys that are voting, if he puts up similar passing numbers and wins 14, 15, 16 games, he will be in that position just because he's gone in the space of 3 years from being a mobile quarterback to being a mobile quarterback. He can throw the ball, to actually, I think if you took away the mobile quarterback element from Lamar Jackson, he's a legitimate pocket passing quarterback in the league. He is developed more than any quarterback in such a short amount of time that he is going to be in that conversation for the next 10 years as long as he keeps on this trajectory. And then you've got Patrick Mahomes, because he's going to win 12 games plus, and Patrick Mahomes could go through a 4-game stretch where he throws 20 touchdowns. He could put up a 4-game stretch where he just balloons his numbers for the year, and he will be in that conversation. I think Kyler Murray, where he could win it, is the 2 games they play against Seattle. If he can beat Russell Wilson while Russell Wilson's putting up those numbers twice, then he will be in with a shot. In terms of this game, I think the Cardinals will come out and should blow the Lions away. Although, if the Lions can pick up on a couple of the mistakes they're making defensively and be more consistent on offense, then they could be a much better team. Offensively, they've got all the things there to be good. They just need to put it together and stop making silly mistakes which turn into fumbling games away when they shouldn't.
Yeah, I'm taking Cardinals all day in this one. I think the Lions can't, even if they get themselves in a great position, they've shot themselves in the foot twice. And then now against this Cardinals offense that I think it's just going to go strength to strength.
Yeah.
Taking this with the spread all day long, lock it. This for me would be my lock of the week.
Yep. Yeah, it's definitely close to me. Minus
Easily.
5, it's a score. You could easily see that happening if Kyler Murray can continue his progress as we've seen so far. But definitely very exciting times down in Arizona, which is great to see. And now, Matt, one of the next team is obviously your team, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who actually got the dub this week against the Panthers. They're going in to play Denver Broncos, who of course had that loss against the Steelers, but they also lost Drew Lock in this game.
And Cortland Sutton.
Cortland Sutton. But of course, now Blake Bortles has come in, and obviously Jeff Driscoll was there as well, backed him up last week, came in when he went down. But I mean, how much does losing Drew Lock really hurt this team? And can those guys come in and compete in this game?
I think just off of how our defense looked, Bridgewater's settling into a new system. Obviously, they're trying to figure a few things out there for the Panthers, especially off the bat, exposed him turnovers left and right. I could see a repeat. I think this is, for me, a great spot to be in as a Bucs fan, where for once the defense is showing up, and I think actually that win, I'd put it on the defense. Although the offense, put up some points early in the first half, they kept us in that game. And I think for the Broncos, for either of these guys to come in and turn over on this Bucs defense, I don't think it will happen. I think Blake Bortles, we've seen he can when he wants to look feasible, look good, but we've seen it more often than not where he looks dreadful. And I worry that he comes in underprepared, throws an early pick for him, and then it just kind of all goes to like almost a nightmare situation. I'm not ruling it out. We've seen weirder things happen than a quarterback come in, not have a massive amount of time, and get a win somewhere. But I think this is a Bucs team where it's our defense that, especially that against the Saints, kept it from looking horrendous, and against the Panthers, just kind of put the Panthers down early and shut them up. That I think the offense has got time to develop and to get figured out, because there's some moments where people are not on the same page. Even Brady and Gronk look on different pages. But Rojo and Fournette, between the two of them, I think can be enough to almost be sort of a plaster for a while Brady settles into this, and him and Arians and Byron Leftwich calling the plays all figure each other out and find, right, how are we actually working this team? In the meantime, they can be like, you two just keep running the ball.
Yeah.
And we'll throw it when we need to.
This Buccaneers team should win this game, and I think they will win this game. But first of all, I don't think the Buccaneers are anywhere near as good as everyone thought they were going to be. No. I see them more as a 9 or 10 win team rather than a lot of people would have had them as a 12 or 13 win team.
Yeah.
Still think they're going to be in the playoffs, but I do not at this moment in time, unless there is drastic improvement offensively, I do not currently consider them as a contender in the NFC, given some of the other teams in the NFC. But I think they'll be there in the playoffs. I think they win this game, but I think the Broncos will make it a much harder game than a lot of people might expect. Quietly, Jeff Driscoll came in and had quite a good game against the Steelers. I mean, they were going up against the best defense in the league, and they looked semi-competitive. They weren't just completely shut out and made to look rubbish. The biggest miss they're gonna have here is not having Cortland Sutton on the field. I think he's the biggest kind of guy that they would need to win this game. I think if Cortland Sutton plays in this game, then for me this is more of a coin flip game, a game that the Broncos could win. But with Cortland Sutton not there, I struggle to kind of see that happening, which is a shame because I was really high on the Broncos coming on this year. I really feel bad for Drew Lock kind of not getting the chance to come out, and he's going to miss a couple of weeks now. And also there's the risk because of it's the right shoulder, the rotator cuff. Really hope they don't rush him back or anything like that.
100%.
Just hold him out as long as you need. You've got your young guy, you'll get there eventually. But don't kind of panic as a Broncos fan. Maybe the season's gone. It's still not the end of the world. But I still think there is an outside chance the Broncos could win this game.
Oh, yeah. There's definitely opportunity.
Yeah.
Just there is, just off if the Bucs offense, if we see a few more mistakes, and then it all just kind of... At some point, I am worried there could be a game where you get a pick from Brady, you get another bit where, let's say, him and Rojo aren't on the same page, you get another fumble, a couple of things like that, but early in the game, and it falls apart. I think because we had the lead and the defense was showing up and had the Panthers rattled, got away with it just.
The one thing I will say, though,
is worrying.
the one thing I will say about the Buccaneers, the biggest bright spot for me, and I don't want to take a victory lap too early, but Winfield Jr. looks like he could have been the steal of the second round. As I said in all the kind of build up to this season, I've said it a number of times on the show, he is a ball hawk and he is a gamer. And yes, he's going to get burnt over the top where he's just going for the ball and making dodgy plays. But he's also going to pick off a lot of balls and he's going to be aggressive at the point of attack and he's going to really go for the ball. And I think he looks like he could turn into being a really great pick for the Bucs there.
Great forced fumble on the weekend. Got the strip. I turned it over in a moment when if they'd have got that drive, turns the game potentially. So yeah. Big player. Showed up in a big moment.
You love to see it. And I'm glad you stumbled over Jeff Driscoll's name as well there, Sam. I did not realise how much of a tongue twister that was until I started speaking.
It's been a long day, mate. It's been a long day.
Definitely has been. So let's get it moving on to the penultimate game of the week. And this is the Green Bay Packers going into New Orleans to play the Saints. The Saints off the back of that loss against the Raiders. But they do come into this game as -3 favourites on the spread. Now, the Packers have scored 30 points in both their games this season. Do you reckon they can do this again against the Saints, Sam?
Yeah, man. Aaron Jones is balling. Devontae Adams is still Devontae Adams. Aaron Rodgers he's not the Aaron Rodgers we saw last year. Aaron Rodgers is playing like Aaron Rodgers from 2011. He is playing at a very high level of football. And you will not find me betting against Aaron Rodgers when he's in this kind of form, ever. I think the Packers win this game. I think they look good doing it. And the Packers are... I'm really happy to see Aaron Rodgers kind of playing how we know he can play.
I think this is a game that you could look at as a fixture and say, like, before the season started, it could be an NFC Championship game. That kind of caliber of team. Yeah. If Thomas isn't in, it's not. This Saints team just isn't there. I think Breeze, again, gets exposed. And I think just the way this Packers team are playing, they're a force. Like, you've got to come out and you've got to put a stop to them. Because even they come back against the Lions, you were looking at it like, hang on. What was it? I think 17 points down or 14 points down, something like that. Well, I think we also kind of saw it on Red Zone. We were like, hold on. The next thing you know, Aaron Jones is running all over him. Yeah. What do you stop? You say, okay, we're going to focus on stopping Aaron Jones. Oh, Rodgers has just torched us for 400 yards.
Yeah.
All right, we'll stop Rodgers. Oh, Aaron Jones just ran over us for 200. Like, someone's going to have to figure out how to deal with this team, and it's going to take a very good defense to do it. And
it's kind of ironic as well, considering the way that it's almost a flip of the Saints thing compared to with the Packers, where you're saying they've got someone at every position who can do a good job. Like, you've got Devontae Adams, they've got Aaron Jones, who's at the moment probably one of the more underrated running backs in the league. I mean, they took a second round pick on AJ Dillon when you've already got a guy who's just scored 20 touchdowns. What? I mean, Valdez Scantling's starting to look like he's really working into being a good number two, and that's what Rodgers needs. I mean, Rodgers really does well when he's got a solid number two option, which I really like to see. For many years, he did it with Randall Cobb. But the big thing is, from the Saints side of the ball, if Michael Thomas isn't playing, and you can just kind of keep everything in front of you. And you basically just say, right, we're going to take the run game out of this, and we're not going to give you anything over the middle, and we're going to force you to throw the ball. We're going to do everything in our power to make you throw the ball, and throw it at a depth of greater than 10 yards. Yeah. Then I don't think this is a game the Saints can win, because, again, I said this before the season started, Drew Brees can't, and hasn't been able to for a couple years now, throw a deep ball. He's very inconsistent at it. He doesn't really connect on it that much. And that's fine. If that's not what they need him to do, fair enough. But without Michael Thomas in the system, they might very well need him to do that. And that's something he can't. So you might even see, if Michael Thomas is out for prolonged periods of time and they start losing games, you might even starting to see kind of some Sean Payton trickery where suddenly Jameis is getting on the field for deep balls. Or you could have 3 quarterbacks on the field at one time because you've got You've got Jameis and Taysom Hill lined up, one at receiver, one in the backfield, something like that. So it'd be interesting to see what Sean Payton can kind of dial up with these guys.
I think a big point of that as well is in terms of stopping the run game against the Saints. Kamara looks good. Like I think it's one thing to stop him. It's
destroyed me in fantasy. I thought I had the week 1, and then I woke up.
I saw
morning.
that. Quite happy about
I was like,
it's another thing to stop him getting in the end zone because like the Bucks held his yardage, got in the end zone I think twice in the end, and he looked good again the other night. So I think it's easier said than done. But I don't think from what we saw against the Raiders, and I think it's going to be worse against the Packers. Kamara can't do it on his own. Breeze needs to find a way without Thomas to just kind of get something rolling.
Yeah.
I don't know what they need to figure out, but Breeze has got to kind of shape something up and kind of roll the clock back at just a couple of years. Just enough. Just get a little bit extra on the ball and let Kamara do the rest. I'm worried. If I was a Saints fan, I'd be very worried watching this. That what happens if you get a big injury for Kamara? We've already seen so many big injuries. We could get another more permanent one. But I think, Packers all day in this one.
Yeah, I was going to say that the spread on this one seems just... There's another one this week where it just seems a bit odd that it's -3 in favour of the Saints. And that is correct for this game as well. Got that one right.
Wouldn't be shocked if this moves throughout the week in reaction to what
we've
seen.
Potentially.
This is very fresh off that Saints loss.
Yeah, so that spread is of today. I don't know what my words are trying to say there, but it's of today basically.
Yep.
So it's... I'll be taking the Packers all day.
Maybe getting early on that one earlier in the week. Don't leave
that
till Sunday
exactly.
morning.
Yeah. If it's still at -3 today, definitely take the Packers on that one. Right, final game of the week,
and
it's a hot one. Much like Sam's cabin right now, I can tell he's baking in there.
It's pretty warm.
This is a hot game, Monday Night Football, potentially game of the regular season. I would like to say early shout for. Two great quarterbacks going at it. Over-under is quite high in this one at 53. Ravens are -3 on the spread, but that's a coin flip, really, I think, on that basis.
I really wish this game had been, like, in a month's time. Do you know what I mean? Just, like, give both teams 5-6 weeks of the season to really warm up their offenses, just so that you get the game. Do you remember that the Chiefs Rams game from 2 or 3 years ago, where they were just going at each other, and it was like a mid-season bout of the two best offenses in the league? I just wish that it was later in the season, so that you had the two best offenses in the league at the height of the best they're gonna get, just going at each other. I just would have loved to see that.
I think it's going to be an incredible game nonetheless. I think the Chiefs look pretty well, apart from getting shaken a little bit when Herbert came in. In terms of offense, they look dialed up, ready to go. Obviously, they kept so many players around. I think with this game, as much as it's a coin flip, I said this in the previews a few weeks ago. Regular season, I'll take Ravens over Chiefs. Playoffs, I'd take Chiefs over Ravens. So I'm going to stick with that for this week and take the Ravens, but I won't be shocked as well if the Chiefs win. I think either way, should be a great game of football.
Yeah.
It's two young MVPs going at it, seeing who can come out on top. And this is something that I think was a rivalry for it's going to become a rivalry of a generation. Maybe it's the right wording for it, of just who's going to get the better of who on which occasion.
Yeah.
And I'm taking Ravens for this one this time.
I think we might all be aligned here. I mean, James said it's a bit of a coin flip. I am also taking the Ravens just because I think the Ravens' defense might be that much better than the Chiefs' defense. Tyrann Mathieu made a couple of just insane plays at the weekend. There was one where he broke a ball up in the end zone, and you watched him, his ability to just track the ball and break it up was, I mean, he is that good. And I don't want to work against Mahomes, but I don't think the gap between Mahomes and Lamar Jackson is as big as it would have been even towards the end of last year. I really think just watching the eyeball test with Lamar Jackson, I think he's come on so much as a quarterback since even the end of last year. And I think as he matures, he is just growing so much. He is becoming a pocket guy as well as all the other things he can do.
Yeah.
The only question I have is he doesn't have as many offensive weapons around him of the caliber that Mahomes has.
Yeah.
but I am going to give this one to Lamar Jackson and the Ravens.
Yeah, I would definitely take the Ravens as well, but maybe I'm a bit more biased. I'm nervously...
That's like me with the Bucks. Like,
nervously taking the Ravens.
It's like me with the Giants. I'm taking the Giants every day.
But yeah, when I go to put this one down for the spread this week, it's so tough for me to call.
Nerve-wracking, this one, yeah.
Yeah, this is the one that's going to mess me up, and I can just feel it in my fingers.
I feel like this is a game I might almost just like. If I was going to bet, I'd bet on the Ravens, but I might just not, just to enjoy it as a game of football. Because I feel like it's going to be so easy just to get burnt on this and watch a great game of football, but it's not swinging your way and just get too worked up in your bet. I think I might just keep this as pure football.
Yeah, but definitely buzzing to watch this one.
100%.
Game of the season, game of the regular season at least.
Guarantee it's
like
I guarantee it's like a 12-9 game. It's just kickers.
Justin Tucker MVP of the game.
Yeah.
You know,
I imagine odds on that only kickers scoring points in this game.
Cool. I'll find that one out for you, and
Matt's bet of the week.
We'll find that one out for you, and we'll let you know because that could be 1,000 odd to 1 or something ridiculous like that. Because I mean, it's not going to happen.
It's not happening. It's not
happening. But that very nicely rounds up our week 3 preview. One thing just to touch on real quick is Sam's moustache. That is, of course, been shaved off.
It's gone. Shaved
yesterday. Yep. For those listening on Spotify and Apple, Sam is right up against the camera and showing us his lovely bit of stubble there he's got. What he did shave. Me and Matt were trying to encourage him to grow it. But,
ladies,
you know,
I might just edit.
It's not a good look. When I let it, when I don't shave, I do look like I shouldn't be allowed inside of like 50 meters.
Oh, no. Let's wrap it up. Let's wrap it up.
Moving swiftly on. As Matt alluded to there, we'll wrap it up now.
Yep. Moving on from that.
Shameless plug, because we love a shameless plug. We love to get the pod out there and everything. So be sure to go over to YouTube, check us out, go like, comment, and subscribe. And maybe if you're watching on YouTube and you like to listen on Spotify, Apple, go over there.
At the same time. Sync them up. Sync them up.
If you need something for your commute to work or something like that.
Exactly. Yeah. We are flexible guys here on the Brit Iron Podcast. So
we like to provide.
Yeah, we'll give you options. So that is just one of them. So yeah, go check us out on whatever platform suits you best. Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Yeezer or Deezer, whatever it's called. You know, one of those ones.
Wherever we're on.
I think it'll gradually be popping up all over the place. We've got the main 3 now, so it's just going to be as we get authorised and put on other ones through our
Exactly,
our
you know, Sky Sports, NFL Network will be on there as well eventually. So keep your eyes peeled for that.
Bebo, MySpace,
Habbo Hotel.
Right,
okay.
Club Penguin, we're on all of those as well.
Oh, I could get behind getting on Club Penguin.
Oh mate, that'll be the play. We'll get back to them on that one because I think we should look into that. But of course, as well, before we go, I'd like to mention the Twitter and the Instagram. We are at the Brit Iron. Go drop us a follow and get involved with the conversation on both of those platforms. But for now, thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.